Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and welcome again to the Rob and Mike Show. As always, that's Rob.
That's Mike.
Hey, again, we always start off our show this way. Thank you again for all of your support. Thanks for tuning in. You guys, please, right now, go ahead, smash that subscribe button. Share a couple of these videos with your friends. Bring a little bit of joy into their lives. We're always so thankful to you, so we really appreciate you. Rob, it's the weather is changing, as we've just been talking about. It is starting to get a little bit more chill in the air.
The briskness is coming.
Right, we're starting to get that. You know, I noticed that there's a few more leaves on the ground. So,
and as you can see, it's been a while since we've been in
we're comfortably back in hoodies again, which is kind of cool. Back to school, you know, so somebody asked me a really a neat question. This was part of I was in school. It was one of my classes. And the question was posed, what is your favorite part about, like, back to school season, right? And some people said, you know, I really like seeing the boost of activity of the kids on the street, which is neat because it's funny, in the summer, right? You would think that you would see more kids during the summer, right?
Not like you used to.
But you don't really. You don't see, you don't see a lot of kids. Yeah,
they're this,
right?
Or
yeah,
this.
Yeah, and they're you know, and obviously we had COVID, so people have been inside, things like that. But like you don't see the kids kind of running around the street in packs like you used to, right? And you know, I mean, like if you go out to like some sort of like an amusement park, or you go to like a campground or like a park, you know,
or a fair,
something you do. But like, you know, just like in your average, like, oh look, there's, you know, the roaming bands of kids running around. You don't really get to see that anymore. So I can completely understand, because at least during the school year, you know, you do have that like that morning period where like you see all the kids heading to school, and you know, in the afternoon here they come heading home. So that part I thought was kind of cool. But I have mine. I was going to ask you. So this part, you know, whether it's the going back to school part or the changing of the seasons part, like what's your favorite part about this time of year?
I do like the season change. Luckily, where we live and where we're from, we have lived in states where we actually get a seasonal change.
Some kind of seasonal change, yeah.
Living in Vegas, not so much. It just goes from hot to cold, and then hot again. Not a lot of season change. And speaking of that, what's very interesting is Vegas, which was the first time I noticed during summer, you don't really see kids out because it's 114 degrees out.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
Like summer vacation for, like, say, like Nevada, Arizona, probably places in Texas, I'm like, it's summertime, where are the kids? And then I look at the temperature, I'm like, oh, I understand. They don't want to spontaneously combust.
Yeah, right.
So you see the only time you see a lot of kids is a lot of the apartment complex and stuff like that, and townhouses, structures, all have open
the community pool. Yeah,
and that's where you find everyone. So out here in Illinois is the change in weather, and I may joke with it with my friends and stuff, but with social media, I do kind of like seeing the whole first day this grade for my friends and their kids like that.
Right,
I don't mind it.
Yeah,
like, there's a part, like, the jaded side of me is like, I don't care. But in the long run, I'm kind of like, that's cool. And some kids, you're like, wait, your kid is going to what grade
Isn't
now?
it strange, though? You see some of your kids, some of your friends' kids, and you're just like, your kid's going into what grade, right? How did that happen? And then you start doing your own math, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Well, speaking of, I mean...
Yeah, no, this is 7th grade for mine.
Yeah,
7th.
You're 2 years
2 years away, yeah, 2 more years
from a high schooler.
Till high school.
Yes, and
this is the last, you know what, it hit me. I am in my, I have, let's see, I have 4 months left until I have a teenager.
Yes.
That
he is already exhibiting.
Well, teenagers are teenagers, and I mean, but it's like 12, preteens are teenagers, yeah. yeah, no, legit, like, turning around the corner to teenager, which is pretty wild,
Yes, and
I mean, and you've known my son since pretty much day one, so
yeah,
you know,
so it's pretty wild. And last year, with my family and close friends, we had a bunch of graduates Like,
Yeah,
a bunch
yeah,
of
like
people
a lot of
were all
that's
senior.
yeah. I saw a lot of some of my extended friend group. They've got the seniors going into college, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's super. It is cool seeing that. I do enjoy seeing the pictures online. It does, make you feel weird because you're like, well,
I'm old.
I'm old. Clearly, I'm old because your children are, about to vote.
Yeah. Now, as a kid, as much as I was not a big school person, I, as a kid, did love the first day of school because that went your new school clothes, your new backpack, your new that. Yeah. I always loved that first.
The newness, your new supplies, and that's funny. I've heard that from people a few times too. That excitement about I've got my new supplies, I've got my new pens, and I've got
I got my brand new school
right.
that my mom has not let me wear for 4 months because she bought it early because it was on sale.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you can't touch these clothes, and you're just
right.
Man,
yeah, because your mom was smart and went to the end of year sale, right? And she got all your school clothes, so they've been sitting and
you've seen them.
Yeah, you've seen them, right? Because you had to try them on, right? And then they went straight in the bag into the back of the closet. You have a good summer, and you're just like, but I got gear. No, you don't. Not until the first day of school.
Oh,
I used to have because you get them so far in advance, right? And I would have my first day of school outfit picked out, right? Because you knew out of what you got, you're like, okay, I want to wear
that's day one.
Yeah, this is day one.
Oh yeah, that was always exciting. And it was also exciting to see what everyone else did because I don't know if it's the same way as we grew up. Dude, first day of school is where you wore your primo outfit that got.
I think it used to be especially when you got a little bit older, like when you got to junior high and things, and you wanted your first day of school outfit to kind of be like your signature look, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm wearing this because this is going to establish me as who I am. And then you get to school and you realize that everybody's parents shop at the same store. There's 3 other kids at school with your outfit on.
And then by the second week, you're like, I don't know, does it smell?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
I don't think this is me anymore. I'm gonna go dress like what that person over there dresses like.
Oh my god.
They look cooler.
And actually, what I find fun is working in the school district is. Especially with everything happening, I'm excited for more kids to be coming back this year into the schools. So
it is a really regardless of how you feel about the world that we live in, the COVID world, or what side on all the craziness that you happen to fall on, it is cool that the kids are back in school. It is. Obviously some people have their different views about how they should come back. But I think that we should all just be super happy that they are back. I don't care what your state's doing or how your county's handling or how your school district's handling it. Let's be happy that they're in the building, able to socialize with each other. Oh. I know there are a lot of kids that over the last year and a half just really haven't gotten to play with their friends. Oh. And whether they're playing with their friends in a mask or not playing with their friends in a mask, at least they're getting to play with their friends.
And I think especially for the younger kids, the high schoolers, I saw the high schoolers, they were all hanging out during distant learning. And, when you're in high school, you just hang out with your friends.
Right, you have, because by the time you get to high school, there's a certain amount of autonomy that you get just because of your age.
Yeah,
right?
But, the first through...
the first through junior high kids... Yeah. Who are still kind of relegated to doing exactly what their parents want them to do and when they want them to do. There are a lot of kids who's and it's not no one's we have to get past the right wrong thing, but parents make their decisions about what they're going to do with their kids and how they're going to do their lives. And there are so it's cool that there's this that the doorway is open again, right?
Yeah, because I don't know for you, it was. About where your son was now, about 7th grade is when my parents started to let me, that 12 to 13 was starting to
Yeah, you're in that age range where if you go, you're allowed to just go to your friend's house if I know your friends,
Yeah,
I know their parents, I know where they live.
And call me when you get there.
Right, take your bike, depending upon the neighborhood you live in, obviously. But yeah, take your bike, go down to, your buddy's house. And
speaking of that, to go with we talked about earlier, do kids nowadays do that or and again it's a really, this is the funny thing because I think a lot of what
when we were growing up, it wasn't as neighborhood specific as far as like I think what you kids did as often. I think that kids still do, but it's really a matter of like it's all proximity, right? Like, you know, do you live in a neighborhood where the bulk of your kids are in the same school? Does your kid live around a lot of kids that are in the same age group?
Yeah.
And realistically, in modern day, like in this modern day world, like how safe is it? There's a lot of people that don't live in areas where, you know, they can just say, yeah, just, you know, come back when the streetlights come on, you know?
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people who still do. And, you know, a lot of us, you know, who
Over a certain age.
who are of a certain age, you know, you've you know, hopefully moved yourself into an area where, you know, your kids are able to do that, you know. It's funny, so, you know, my wife and I are, we're in the process of getting our house ready to sell, right? Because we didn't want to jump on it this year. It was, allergies, sorry folks. It's not the vid. But we're in the process of getting our house prepared to sell, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that we have, you know, those weird little things you put into the house that you want, right? You know, we're obviously, you've seen, there's a ton of stuff we have to do around our house as we're getting ready. But when we're shopping, what we realize that one of the things that really excites us about it is, you know, we don't live in like the world's worst neighborhood. It's not the world's super best neighborhood, but it's not the world's worst.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I don't like about my street is that my street doesn't have sidewalks.
Yes. And it's a dead end.
Right. I don't mind the dead end. The dead end's like, it's not the dead end, it's, you know, not ideal.
Yeah.
But I don't live on a walking street. And it's funny because when you live in areas that have sidewalks, you don't realize how I guess the convenience that and sort of it motivates the neighborhood to walk around, right?
Yeah, and also when you live on a street, and yes, your son is very intelligent, but I can see like where you're like, I don't really want him walking down the street because cars. There's no really safe.
Right, exactly. Like it's not. There's no real safe way. Like so, yeah. You know, you might live in a neighborhood that's like really quiet and everything, and some people do. Like where I work right now, it's kind of rural, right? And so you see kids walking down the street all the time off the sidewalk, but it's also there's no reason for there to be a lot of traffic. Now there's no reason to have traffic on my street, but if you're going to leave, as soon as you leave my street, you're on a main thoroughfare, right?
Yep.
And so you know, I think that when you get into those sort of pocketed neighborhoods, you know, where you can have that, yeah, you do. You see it a lot. I think that there is a different element, but that also plays into the sort of difference because, you know, your socioeconomic status level, right, has a lot to do with how your kids are growing up, and you know, and so you know, I don't know how to put that without like sounding horrible, but like, you know, the better off that you're doing, the better. Like, it's almost like the better off you're doing, the better experience that you're providing for your kids.
And the other thing with you have specific neighborhoods too is where we grew up. Well, you were in BFE, but where I grew up, there was lots of things walkable to get to.
Yeah,
you know, growing up where I did in the suburbs of Chicago, like it was walkable. Like the mall.
Right, you could walk to 7-Eleven, you could walk to the mall, you could walk to... Like,
and actually, one of the townhouses my mom lived in, like, literally, was the Park Forest Center.
You were like, I had to go across the street from the mall.
1, 2...
I'm at the mall!
Yeah.
Right, so your mom was really, like... So, yeah, by the time that you were my son's age, like, going to the mall was for you literally, like, walking across the street.
Yeah.
Like, so you could go, like, to the Dollar Theater and all that stuff and never be more than, like, 10 minutes from home.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one had to drop you off at the mall.
No, unless we went all the way up to Lincoln, but that, you know, that was... And even then, I think, as kids, I think I've walked it, but once again, it was all main streets. Like, all the streets were sidewalk. We never actually had to walk on the street to get
right. You didn't have to walk on the street, and that's the other thing. That's because you know, growing up in the Chicago area, right? I remember being, you know, before we moved out to the BFE, but you know, being able to be like 11, right? And you lived in Chicago, so by the time you were 11, living in Chicago, you knew how to take the bus.
Yeah, and usually the corner store was
right. There was
1 to 4 corner stores that you could walk to.
Tons of kids around. You could walk to the corner store. You know, and if you had a friend that was like, say, you know, like I had a friend of mine that lived, like, for those of you, you don't have to know Chicago, but I had a friend that lived in Chatham. Mm-hmm. And so it was, you know, it was a 20-minute bus ride. And so we just, you know, so we could do that, or he'd come down. So that, not the biggest thing. So it's just different, and I think that's why school and the kids being back in school is so vital, because when you think about your school, you don't think about like how many different living environments each kid group has, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you've got, you've got your kids that live in the apartment complexes with the community pools.
Yep.
You've got your kids that live out in BFE that like have no street, like that have no street lights or have no sidewalks. Then you've got your kids that live in like the massive sprawling like suburban neighborhoods where everybody's walking their dogs and all the kids are riding their bikes and everywhere. And so so there's a huge different like range, and so for a lot of those kids interacting with those other kids, they see them in school, and who they develop their bonds with and who they become friends with isn't based necessarily on what your neighborhood is, but who they see in school. So I'm just so glad, because I know there are a lot of kids who have close contacts that they have not seen.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing is, when you get that little mixture of kids, then you learn about, like, I didn't learn about rural basically until I met you, and I was 16. And I was like, first time you took me out to your place, I was like, am I going to die? No.
I know, as you're still driving. No, you're fine. Where are we going? People live out here? No,
But,
really, they do.
But see, and that's the thing, when you get stuff like that, when you mix, growing up in an area where all the suburbs are kind of connected, but they're so different, that you get to learn from other people and where they're from. And I'm sure there's people who live where we live who've never really been to rural or anything like that, but those kids live there. So, you get a little different culture from where kids are coming from. Yeah,
it's huge. I mean, you do, and all those different kids coming together, they learn a little something about each other, and who they make friends with changes who they are, and it helps them grow. And you're right, like, I remember when my parents moved, because I literally moved from in-city Chicago to, I think the town that I moved to had like one stop sign when I first moved there, a stoplight. I think there was one stoplight when I first moved there. And you had to, when you went to my parents' house, right, you left town and you just sort of kept driving, and then you kept driving, and then you turned right, and then you just kept driving. And I remember when I went out there, because Maya was like, "Mom, where are you going?
Where are you taking?"
And she's like, "I heard there was a house out here," and I'm like, "Where?" And so she keeps driving, she's still driving. I'm like, "Why are you still driving?" She's like, "There's a house out here," and I'm like, No. I think once you got to this point, you probably want to decide that like this is not the house for you. We got out there, and my mom was like, "I think I like it," and I was like, And then my dad saw it,
and he liked it.
And my dad being like, my dad is very much like, my dad's, he's that sort of the cowboy malehood thing, it's just like, I can build it. He's like, yeah, no, this is good, this is perfect. So I completely, so I like, it's, I get the whole like move out to the middle of nowhere, work the land thing that some guys like to do. Because it is fun, right? But yeah, it's a different thing for kids, right? The kids grow up in like totally different environments. I don't know what the best environment for kids is, and I don't think there really is one that wins. Like kids growing up out on like the middle of a farm, like where they can pretty much, because you have so much crazy autonomy, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like those are the kids that they know how to fix cars. They know how to build things. Yeah. They know how to plant things. There's a whole different skill set, compared to like the city kids that learn taking buses and
watching your back and like the
safety
smart.
Like a street smart. I don't know. I everything's different. It builds different people.
Yeah.
But I do know that the one thing that they all have in common is that when they're in school, they get to sort of meld all of that together. I don't know the way that you raise your kids is the way that you raise your kids. Nothing's right or wrong. But you get a completely different skill set. I mean, I know both, and I consider myself really, really fortunate for knowing both. I'm probably a little bit, definitely a little bit more rural than I am urban for sure, and you're definitely more urban than you are rural. Which pretty much makes us, like this far on, like we're suburban range, like this far on the suburban range. I think we're both suburbanites.
Yep.
At our core.
And yet, there's still plenty of city in both of us. So.
Still a little bit of city, still a little bit of country. Yeah. What was that like? A little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll.
Oh, the Osmonds.
Oh
but
gosh,
anyway,
we do miss you.
But we really want you guys to comment below. Tell us what your favorite thing
that's
first
really
day of school. Like,
big question.
Even from your childhood, or what's your favorite thing about your kids? Is it the fact that your kids are out of the house because summer's over? And if that's okay, as parents, it is okay to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad school's starting. My kids have been on top of my head since school got out. Yeah. And I'm sure even more so because most of the kids didn't go back to school at all. So most of you parents, especially if you're single parents, have had your kids to yourself for about almost 2 years.
Yeah. And tell us too, jump in, you guys. Like, what was your were you an urban, suburban, or rural kid,
or all,
and what was and was that awesome for you? We're gonna actually with this video, we're gonna put up a poll question that's gonna be posted with this video. To scroll down right here, there is a poll question that you can go to. And just and just fill it in. Tell us about you. Tell us about that. And it's really just really quick. It's just going to be like, what's your favorite part about going back to school? What's this? You can leave it in the comments. You can also go to the poll question really quick. The poll question will also be on Facebook. So just interact with us. We're really just we want to hear about your fall experience. Obviously, the weather is changing, so we're coming up on holiday season. So the holiday shows are happening.
Oh yeah.
This year is going to be the first year. Rob joined us last year, I think, for the first time. But we do Las Vegas for Thanksgiving. That's just our jam.
Yep.
So this year's Thanksgiving show, we're going to go ahead
we're going
to record that somewhere in Las Vegas.
Somewhere, and if not, we might just do a nice little Facebook Live for that.
I think we might actually. What I would like to do, I think, for that one is, I think I'm actually. We will see if this works out. But if we can do this, I think we are going to record the next show on Fremont Street.
Okay.
So hopefully when you guys are watching the Thanksgiving show, it'll be on Fremont Street. I don't know what's going on with the Christmas show and the Halloween show, but hey, it's fall. It's back to school. Go ahead, write a comment. Tell us about your favorite part of back to school, and jump on that that poll and tell us how you're doing. And don't forget, also, subscribe, like, we really appreciate it.
And share.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys again soon. As always, that's Rob.